Good evening, welcome to ZeldaSpeedRuns number 2 and to the Link to the Past All Dungeons RMG Tournament Group N. We are actually closing soon with the group stages and move to the bracket stage, but before that there's still a few matches to go. Today, Group N Kyong92 versus ObscureLifeForm. With me are my two commentators, Anders and Apasidok. So let's dive into the action, onto the layout, and let's say hi. Hey guys, what up?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey. How you doing, Apathy?
I'm alright. Yeah, we got a pretty good matchup for you today. So we got Kyong versus ObscureLifeForm today. If Kyong manages to win this match, basically the implications are that he and Human will be guaranteed to move on to the bracket stage. If Obscure can pull off the upset here, then it's kind of throw this group into chaos a little bit, and then the Kyong versus Human match tomorrow will be quite determinative of what happens. So it should be a pretty good match. Kyong is both these guys kind of play a little bit more randomizer than the vanilla speedrun. Kyong does do quite a few of the speedruns from time to time, though, so we're happy to have him in the tournament. I believe Obscure just learned this run just for this tournament. So their PBs are a little far apart, but we've seen a lot of stuff happened in this tournament so far. So we're definitely going to have an upset here today. So it should be a pretty good one.
It will be a really nice race. If there's one thing I can say about Kyong is that if you put the word glitch anywhere in a sentence, he is suddenly interested. So I wasn't really surprised to see him deciding to jump on this tournament.
Yeah, he does like the crazier stuff. So
yeah. So Apathy, let's talk about this route. This run itself is all dungeons, restricted major glitches. So what that means to us is that we are going to do all of the dungeons. What is a dungeon, you may ask? Well, let me tell you, Apathy, because I know that you don't know. A dungeon is anything that basically appears in the ending credits.
Yeah, more or less. Dungeons are kind of just it's anything that was in the ending credits and anything that has like keys and that kind of stuff. So we do have to do the contentious one tends to be Aga's Tower, but we do have to do it. We do have to do Ganon's Tower. So we have to do all of them. The restricted major glitches is like the rule set, and the all dungeons is the goal. There is a 80% of this rule set, which is about like a 26-minute run. So we have a lot of our categories because of how powerful the glitches are. What we do a lot of times is we kind of put on the stipend that you have to defeat all the bosses or do all the dungeons, just to flesh out the run a little bit more, make it more like what the NMG run would look like with glitches available. If we do just allow any of the glitches, you can pretty much just go straight into Ganon's Tower anytime you want, or if you allow any of the major glitches, you can go straight to the Triforce anytime you want. So we always kind of append these goals onto them to kind of flesh out the run a little bit more in this game.
All right. So we start like many of the other categories, if you're familiar with the game, with our fabled escape segment. Not that much different than what you'd normally see in most runs. We're going through, jumping down a hole through this rain state, gonna go get a nice little boomerang, hide from these potentially possessed guards, I think is the implication, but Payroll might have something else to say about that. And we're gonna go talk to Zelda, who's been talking to Link telepathically.
Yeah, we do have to get rid of the rain state. We have to deliver Zelda to the sanctuary. You're kind of limited what you can do in the rain state. It would be possible for us to actually go to Eastern first. The major reason we don't do that is because until you actually go talk to your uncle, Zelda keeps contacting you telepathically, and so these really long text boxes that just take up. Yeah, which is kind of unfortunate because it would be really cool for these like restricted major glitches categories to be able to go get the boots first and then come do escape with boots. But unfortunately, we can't do that. So
there's also a bit of risk involved in any category in which you would go to Eastern first while Zelda is still interrupting you. If she interrupts you at just the wrong time, it will hardlock your game.
Yeah, that would also make it a little bit more interesting.
We don't like to see that. So we've defeated our first mini-boss, the ball and chain guard, on both screens. And both runners seem to be like really, really right up in there. They've got Zelda. They're running right back out. But this escape segment, it's going to look pretty basic. But trust us when we say that as soon as escape ends, things are going to start blowing up with those restricting major glitches that we keep promising you. You may notice as we're going through here, if you're not as familiar with the game, that the enemy movement is not exactly the same between the two runners. There is a good amount of RNG, whether it be enemy attacks, enemy movement. Luckily, I always like to talk about this during escape. As they head towards the basement, we'll see some rats and some snakes, and the movement of those, while it is random, has some patterns that our runners who are a little more familiar with the game are able to read pretty quickly.
Yeah, escape
Or they
really,
walk into it. It's fine.
Escape really doesn't make or break your run too much. You can lose a handful of seconds here, depending on some of that RNG and some other stuff, just how well you deal with it. But especially like in a race like this, with how much other horrible stuff can happen later on, it's nice to have the couple extra seconds you have a good escape, but it's certainly not going to be a determining factor.
Absolutely. You know, I do wonder a little bit about the secret sewer behind the throne. I guess it's just a sort of escape itself, but I wonder about the architectural integrity of this.
Yeah, I really try not to think too much about the architecture in this game. It'll kind of blow your mind.
My favorite thing to do is when going through, for example, Aga Tower, count the windows. They don't make sense.
There's windows in there?
There are a few. Some of the windows actually lead into other rooms for some reason. And then there are other ones that... It's a mess. It's a mess. So they get through the escape segment, and we see our first differentiation, or we will see our first differentiation, I'm assuming, between this and your any % no major glitches speedrun. As they mash through the priest's text, which always happens, Kyong decides to go for that sank cart, and then do a save and quit, while ObscureLifeForm skips the sanctuary heart and does another save and quit. The sank card itself is special in that it refills your health completely. None of the other heart upgrades do that. The healing that you would get in those is always from the cutscene afterwards. And there are a few different reasons why we would or would not get that heart that we'll come up to. Both runners opting not to do the citrus strategy and just walking their way up towards Eastern Palace. Apathy, do you want to talk to us a little bit about why or why not you would want to get a citrus... Sanctuary Heart before or after Eastern Palace?
So normally most runners will get it after Eastern Palace. The next segment we're going to be doing is Pod, which is a really dangerous segment, mostly due to the boss. So we want to when you save and quit, you actually don't start with full hearts. You start missing a few. It's usually about like a little more than half of your total amount of hearts. So we want to use the fact that sank heart will refill us to get it after Eastern. The one reason you would get it before Eastern is, well, A, you would have more hearts for Eastern, although you do have to pick up a heart to make use of that. And Kyong took some damage, so he'll have to get 2 to be at 4 at any point during this. And then the other reason is if you're getting silvers, which is the main safety you'll see in this category, you have to do a save and quit after picking up the silvers anyways. So no matter what, you won't be on full hearts on Death Mountain going up to Pod. So if you are getting those silvers, it makes a little more sense to actually get it in this segment, just to give yourself that little extra protection for Eastern, especially in a race setting like this. Eastern is not very difficult necessarily. We do have to take like 1.5 hearts of guaranteed damage here for this big key skip. But if anything else goes wrong, there's a couple rooms, especially towards the back half, that if you mess up even just a little bit, you will take damage, and that can end up killing you. So in a race setting, picking up sank heart before Eastern, mostly if you're trying to get those silvers, is a pretty good idea. If you're not getting silvers, it becomes probably riskier to get it now because your pod segment becomes even more tenuous.
Absolutely. I know I've talked a few times before about one of the main reasons that I would want to have 4 hearts and why in my quote-unquote runs I decide to always get the Sanctuary Heart is because of this room that we're seeing both runners in. The big key damage boost in Eastern Palace where they're bopping off that little ropey guy called a Popo and into that quartet of anti-fairies to pick up a pot and push a button to spawn the big key chest. That
You just call it a portet?
quartet. That means 4 people, Apathy.
Okay.
I have 3 degrees of music. I know that word.
Okay.
Anyway, that trick, at minimum, I believe, costs you 1.5 hearts of intended damage. So, you know, the more hearts, the merrier. Both of them getting through this back half of Eastern Palace.
Yeah, so as they kind of finish up here, we're kind of going to be running into a lot of glitches really quickly here. So they just have to finish off Armos Knight here. They're going to get they'll get their heart from that. They'll get the first pendant, and then with that we can get the boots. The boots are really important in this run. There's all sorts of clipping that we use those boots for to get into. We can like do teleports with them. We can just walk through walls with them. So we want to get them as soon as possible. Plus they make you go faster, so they're important to get early. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be going straight up Death Mountain. We not only need the mirror. The mirror is a really powerful item, and it's required for some dungeons later on. But we don't have the gloves. We don't have. We're not going to be going to desert at all. So we're going to be doing something called Death Mountain Ascent or DMA. The way that works is there's actually a newer version of it that came out a couple months ago, which made it a lot safer. We're going to be using those boosts to spin speed clip into a wall. We can just hop up onto the ledge that way, and then we're going to be transferring Link off the top of the screen past the natural transition, which is actually going to kind of decouple the camera from where Link's actual position is. So we're going to be like kind of running around a screen that doesn't look quite right. But basically, what we've done is we've wrapped over Link's position to the top of the next screen, and that's actually where the cave entrance to Death Mountain is. So we're gonna be using that. We'll get up to Death Mountain that way, and then when we're on top of Death Mountain, I'm pretty sure Kyong is going to be getting the servers that I'm talking about, based on his times and everything.
I believe he did, yes, last match I watched, so
yeah,
we'll see how he feels.
Yeah, so we're going to be using that broken camera thing again on top of Death Mountain to get silvers. We're going to be hopping down, taking the portal that's at the top of Death Mountain with our camera broken again. And because we've dislocated our position so badly, where we put the portal is actually going to end up in the castle courtyard. There's a specific spot you can put it. And then there's a couple ways to get down to the actual courtyard. I'm not exactly sure what Kyong is going to do, but using that with the mirror in the courtyard, we can take that teleport, and it'll actually put us in the cracked Pyramid Ferry, and we can just walk straight in because we're past the actual bomb wall part of it. So you can see they're both runners doing the DMA, both having doing pretty well with it. And we're straight up the mountain, like I said.
Wow, it's called a Death Mountain Ascent because you ascend the mountain.
Yeah, we're not the most creative people. Well, sometimes.
It's either very creative or not creative at all.
It's either completely obvious or it's a giant meme. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. We got a little. These boulders are bullies. Everything on Death Mountain is very aptly named.
Yeah, it's based on Obscure's time, I think he might actually be skipping the silvers here. But anyway, you can see Kyong doing what I was talking about. He's using that broken camera. And where he puts the warp, it's actually going to be completely dislocated. Okay, yeah, it does look like Obscure is going straight. So, speaking of creative names, this one is called Kiki Yeet, and oh wow, I don't even know how he did that.
Oh no, I've not seen that before.
Yeah, I have not seen that before either. Unfortunately, that is a hard lock that he just went through there. So he has to same equip. I think he's just he's all the way back here. Yeah, that's really unfortunate. So he's got to redo that entire DMA stuff. Kyong is getting silvers. He's doing like I said, there's a couple ways down into this courtyard.
He does this. It's the gosh, what did we call it?
The Brahmin. Yeah, because runner by Brahmin found this method.
Yeah, when I was asking Kyong about this yesterday, they just went, "Yeah, I had to learn how to get silvers for this round. And I decided to do that one."
Yeah, it is the fastest one.
It is the fastest, but it's also the
literally,
newest.
yeah, literally the day the tutorial came out.
Don't you love when you put all your time into something and it's immediately irrelevant?
Well, yeah, that's why it's a text document and not a video.
Smart move. Smart move. So the trick that we are assumedly about to see from ObscureLifeForm, pending any other scrolly boys.
Yeah, Kyung's doing it right now.
Yeah. That's a better way to talk about it. Is called Kiki Yeet. Because you yeet the Kiki. Kiki is a monkey who normally costs 110 rupees to get by before he will open up the Palace of Darkness. But by going into this cave, bomb clipping and using a few little sword buffers, we can see Kyong bounce himself basically into a room in Palace of Darkness. Now, the reason for this is because all of the caves and dungeons are basically stored on a 2D plane in the game. So right now, the game still thinks we're in that cave with the mini Moldorms, doesn't quite know what to do, and since we just opened a locked door and had no keys in a cave that should not have keys, it doesn't matter. That key doesn't matter, but the door's open. Kyong then exits and re-enters the dungeon normally to reset the dungeon as is and keep the dungeon ID at Palace of Darkness.
Yeah, we do need to set our so dungeon IDs are set based on whatever entrance you came into. Since we do need the prize, which is associated with the dungeon ID at the end of this, we do have to reset Palace of Darkness. Opening that first key door just gives us a little nicer routing through pod than we would normally have if we did it everything normally.
Yeah. So we see ObscureLifeForm has gotten the Kiki Yeet this time, is opening up that door we were just talking about and heading back out to reset the dungeon, while Kyong is opening up a chest, get another little gift for us.
Yeah, unfortunately with that hard luck that Obscure took, generally you would see a runner without silvers having a what would look like a fairly significant lead at this point because of the time to get silvers. That does pay off at the end. The main time save you get from silvers is actually your Ganon fight is much faster.
Yeah, so like 20 seconds at the end.
Yeah, something like that. Unfortunately, Obscure, because of the hard luck, both does not have the silvers, and is slightly trailing at this point. So the gap between Kyong and Obscure right now is actually significantly larger than it actually appears because Kyong kind of has like 40 seconds in the bank right now that he'll make up at the end.
So Kyong just performed what, for a new runner, aka me, is one of the scariest tricks that I've just learned in the No Major Glitches Any % run, the hammer jump, because you're getting a hammer and you're bomb jumping. It's a double pixel perfect trick that we are going to see on ObscureLifeForm's side of the screen in just a few minutes. It just lets us skip over a few unsavory rooms.
Yeah, it actually saves less time here because we have an extra key. We could actually abuse that to go through the dark room.
Yeah.
So it saves less time in here, but it still saves a good chunk. An MG saves like 40 seconds. Here it's only like 20-ish, but which is, I mean, certainly nothing to say no to.
Now, in the room that Kyong just entered in with that crystal switch, we are basically at what I like to call the point of no return. We're heading down into the basement of Palace of Darkness, and from that point on, there is no health recovery for us. So we are in a difficult portion of the dungeon with these turtle enemies that you're going to see, which have no pattern to them whatsoever, that hit you hard, and we're going to see a lot of them. They have no potential to drop. Ooh, nice okay boomer. We have no potential to drop any hearts. No potential for any kind of healing whatsoever. And then we're going to go in to a boss where we can basically take 3 hits. Each hit from Helma, Sword King, does 2 hearts worth of damage. And to top it all off, because we're in here earlier than we normally would have been, we don't have the weapons to defeat him as easily as we may be able to earlier. Normally you'd be able to do sword slashes on top of these hammer hits and arrows, but since we do not have a sword better than the fighter sword right now, our sword slashes wouldn't do anything, even if we tried that. It doesn't look like Kyong's going to. Kyong is using 17 extended hammer hits with the fighter sword to break open that skull, and then just one silver arrow to the noggin. Bam! Still a scary fight.
Yeah, Helmet is the main reason to be getting silvers in this route because it is so difficult. We're going to be seeing Obscure do it without the silver arrows. After that first phase, you're going to have to do 4 hammer hits, or either use 8 arrows or 8 fighter sword spins, or any combination of those. It's an incredibly scary fight. Kyong actually took 2 hits just on the first phase.
Yeah. It was very scary.
Yeah, which is the safer of the 2 phases. The second phase, Helma can tail swipe and fireball at the same time, which can just lead to some pretty much nearly impossible patterns to actually dodge.
I've been calling Helma the run killer in a lot of practice runs for people. It's really a big point.
We've seen quite a few Helma deaths in this tournament so far.
So you might be noticing, now that I'm not talking as much, that ObscureLifeForm is holding out the fighter sword while using the hammer. Don't be dumb like me, who thought that was actually people using the sword like that. When you hold out the sword with B, it keeps you facing forward, number 1, but also by using the hammer on top of that, it extends the hitbox of the hammer a little bit more, allowing us to get some easier hits on the Helmasaur King. We have a save and quit, not save and kit. This is not about cats yet. Back to Death Mountain, and you see him doing this little bit of a jump to get up to Tower of Hera. Don't worry if you missed it, you're going to see it a lot more in this run. With Tower of Hera being our next spot to be, we make it through going down to the basement. This is the Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past auto-scroller, and you're basically just going to take a little coffee break during this and run around because there's nothing you can do to make it go faster. But Kyong, like always, gets this nice little pot speed, which doesn't actually do anything. Like, this is an auto-scroller room. There's nothing that you can do to make this room go faster, but gosh darn it if it's not fun to watch.
Yeah, there's just basically have to avoid all these tiles. The spin speed helps a little bit with that, but
it's not about it. It's not about that. It's just fun to watch. I mean, I'm sure that that's the only benefit of it. You go fast, but gosh, it's fun. I have my priorities and you have yours, Apathy.
Clearly.
We see Kyong mirroring back to the entrance after getting that big key, going into the Beetles room, which is full of little beetle dudes. Smash them, get through a door. Oh, I've not seen that strategy from ObscureLifeForm before. Basically using an arrow to put the switch so that the blue blocks are up, which prevents you from getting hit because you're kind of in this odd glitched iframe state.
Yeah, the peg just continued to give you iframes there. It's slow to do because you have the menu, and then on top of that, you're using one of your very precious arrows.
Yeah, the arrow count and the bomb count in this route.
Yeah, it does give you a little bit of a coffee break there.
Yeah. On Kyong's side, we've seen Kyong use a just about pixel-perfect bomb jump to avoid having to retrace his steps and getting the Moon Pearl and heading up to Moldworm. Moldworm is normally really stressful to do because he has sporadic movement, and when you get down to his last couple of hit points, he goes really, really fast. But as we've seen from Kyong, using this magic hammer, the magic hammer, we can avoid the fast stage because the magic hammer does more damage than we would normally be able to do here, making that fight quite a bit easier. So if you're wondering about that bomb jump, we're gonna hopefully see it here from ObscureLifeForm. You line yourself up, do a little spin, put down a bomb, and yeet! There's the Moon Pearl.
Anyways, on Kyong's side, we're doing another one of these spin speed clips. We're going to be doing it jumping down here, and then we're going to get what's affectionately known as a funny auto walk thing. This is basically our only way into the Dark World right now. We haven't killed Aga, and we don't have the gloves to get natural Dark World access. So we abused the fact that the game kind of gives us this free free warp up the top there, and then we can use, again, just glitches to get down to Dark World proper. We're going to be getting gloves here in Thieves Town. We're going to get the second tier of gloves, the power mitts. We can go straight to whatever you pick up, you just get. There's no actual like progressive items. If you've seen like randomizer of this in the vanilla game, it's just whatever you pick up, you get. So we're going to be getting the power mitts, and we're never going to be picking up another pair of gloves.
Yeah, now if you were to, for whatever reason, have a big old brain fart and decide when you're in Desert Palace to get those regular gloves, they will overwrite the Titan's mitts. Which is bad. As I have argued with Kostler, there are two places in this run where you actually have to have a strength upgrade. So we need to have that. I also do want to point out that unlike Tower of Hera, in Tower of Hera we were a little bit, I don't want to say overpowered, because some people, cough cough me, would still die in that situation. But we had better weaponry. In this situation in Thieves Town, we are not doing as well as we normally would do. Normally at this point we would have the Master Sword and we would be able to just dash and slice through these enemies like long clippings. Unfortunately, the Zaziks, which are those lizard pony boys, they don't take as much damage from the... they don't take... Thank you, Greenham. They do not take as much damage from the fighter sword, and so they can hit you hard. So it's all about balance. Kyong blows up a tile in the top of Thieves Town for no reason. Just a little skylight.
Yeah, and so the downside of not having any sort of strength upgrade in this dungeon is normally we just lift up that block that you saw in Kyong String right now, but we don't have any, so we have to go around. It's very convenient that the developers decided to give us this alternate route. I'm not sure what the point of that would be, like in a casual playthrough, but it does allow us to completely skip the gloves and just go get these Titan's mitts and never have to get the regular gloves.
I mean, I can say that for me, knowing that there were Titan's mitts when I was doing my first ever casual playthrough last year, I didn't realize that the regular strength upgrade, level 1 strength upgrade, was able to pick that up, so I did that in my vanilla playthrough. But that was me being stupid and not me having a good reason.
Yeah, for some reason all of the internal dungeon blocks are always strength 1. There's like small blocks and big blocks. In the overworld there is level 2 big blocks, but for whatever reason, in the underworld, there's only level 1s.
Now, we see Kyong heading into the fight with Blind the Thief. Surprisingly, that maiden that he rescued was actually Blind the Thief in disguise. As you will hear from many runners, many commentators, and from me, I guess, Blind is a scripted fight. As long as you move the exact same way, Blind will react the exact same way, and you can just slice through him. Unlike the other enemies in this dungeon, who take less damage from the fighter sword, Blind takes the exact same amount of damage no matter what you're hitting them with. Unfortunate fall there from ObscureLifeForm, but getting back and being a little bit more careful, heading over to rescue the maiden that we know is not a maiden.
Yeah, Kong's on a pretty good run here. After Tower of Hera, he was about 8 seconds ahead. Had a pretty clean Thieves Town. It looks like he's gonna be saving a couple seconds here as well. So he's ahead of his PB by, it looks like, about well, he didn't
Forgot
split.
to split.
About I think it was about 10 seconds.
Yeah. Some golds on the screen too.
Yeah, he's been a very solid run so far.
Yeah. And this is based on his times yesterday. Yesterday he was literally running against empty splits. So, you know.
Oh yeah, because I think he does have a slightly better PB than what's being shown.
He does. He has a 113 something something.
Yeah, okay, so he's not actually on PB pace, he's just running against newer splits.
We do see Kyong doing Bombable Hut, getting some rupees, heading down to Jeremiah the Bullfrog, and taking a detour into the Light World to get a book from the library. Normally we need this book to open up the palette.
Oh, I really hope he read Greenham's message yesterday.
Oh no.
Okay, he did. So that seems to be, this is happening a lot lately. So what he was doing there is a newer version of that we call Frog Door. The problem is you can hard lock on it or soft lock, which is basically the version Kyong did. If you push the A button to talk to the frog too early, for whatever reason, the game just throws you down to the bottom of the screen, and it puts you in the wall that you can't get out of. So if you don't hold the select out of that, it's actually a pure hard lock, and you'd have to reset to before Tower of Hera. Fortunately, this has come up recently, and we had a little powwow in the Discord yesterday about please hold select if it does happen to you. So it looks like Kyong did read that, and he was able to hold select out of it. But this has pretty much tightened up the race. They aren't quite on top of each other. Kyong still has the silver arrows advantage here, and just has a few screens lead. So he was able to recover from that. If he didn't hold select there, that would have been been a pretty big lead for Obscure.
Well, let's see how Obscure does with this frog door or not.
Yeah, there are safer ways of doing it. Yeah, it looks like Obscure is going to be doing the safer way of doing it here. So yeah, he's going to be... Yeah, if you walk straight into this wall after talking to the frog, you get a pretty quick warp here, and then hopefully Obscure will do the world's silliest looking dash coming out of here. The dash actually, since the dash moves at 4 pixels per frame, it actually clips you into the edge of the warp a little bit, and it just turns out that that's a quick warp. But no, he just walks into it, so never mind. Yeah, Ham is very sad. I'm pretty sure Ham is the one who figured out that very silly quick warp.
But we see Kyong picking up their gold sword, doing a very nice fence dash, means the run is valid. Gotta watch those fence dashes, friends. To collect some more rupees from the sea room before heading north towards our next dungeon.
Yeah, Ham actually sits down and tries to figure stuff out. I just discover things on complete accident because I'm an idiot.
That's hilarious. I just cry.
Yeah, I think I have like 3 discoveries in this game at this point, and they're all like literally on accident. It's because I made some other mistake.
After you.
I mean, duck bounce, kind of, except no one really calls it that anymore.
We have Kyong hanging out in the second worst room in the game, but the worst room in this run, because the first worst room in the game is not in this run, thank goodness. Thanks for routing that. That statue drag mummy room, those mummies can just be bullies, depending on how they feel. And I promise I'll talk about the worst room later, but I want to keep us on track. So our heart count is a little bit important here because we are taking 2 hearts of intended damage and everything hits for, I think, 2 hearts at this point.
Not like the Moldorms will only hit for
The
1.
Moldorms don't, but these Ropas, they do.
Yeah, the Ropas do, the Mummies do. There's a good mix in here. Moth will hit for 2 hearts damage, but the Spikes only hit for 1.
Now we can see that horrible room, say bye-bye, and we head over to get a key. We have a fire rod now, which is super helpful. It's our dungeon item in this. Luckily, with that bomb jump that we did earlier, we really just cut out that front part of the dungeon quickly. Don't have to worry about dropping in. Now the famed Mummy Hekwe, which is the eater of all magic. Good mini Moldorm RNG on Kyong's side of the screen in that room to get through those vines. It can be difficult sometimes. And we drop down a hole. And hey, it's a moth. This is one of the most frustrating bosses for me. Not only is it actually difficult, because the boss hits, a couple hearts of damage, shoots fireballs, flies around. I mean, Kyong just did it beautifully, but the flooring beneath you is moving. You're on a conveyor belt floor, so you have to contend with that, plus these little spiky boys who just want to hurt you. And on top of that, there's I call it bug, where the Mothula, if he's hit into the spikes, it's just not very good for you, because he's not taking the damage that he should. Getting that full magic refill from the Mummy Hekwe gives Obscure a little bit more leeway for that mummy room, and for Mothula. We love to see it. Having a little difficulty with this conveyor belt, but makes it through nonetheless. On Kyong's side of things, we are safe quitting, making our way downtown. We need to find our way to the mire area, but because we don't have the flute, there's no general way to get there. So first things first, we gotta get something to open mire for when we get there, so we just do a buffer up back into Tower of Hera. Look familiar? It should. You've seen it twice. Come on, pay attention. And then we get around Katy Perry, the Dead Rock, yeah, and find our only use for the Unitasker, Book of Majora, breaking this open and getting the Ether Tablet medallion. From here, we realize that we've still got a little bit of shopping to do, don't we, App?
Yeah, this is kind of like the main shopping trip of this run. We need to do both this Ether Medallion for Mire. There's no known way into Mire. Like we said before, you have to set the proper dungeon IDs. Anyway, so even if we could get into it through some other means, we'd have to exit and come back into it. Without that medallion, the Mire entrance isn't even open. So we do need to get that, and then we do need to get the flippers solely for Swamp Palace. Despite all the crazy ways we figured out how to do fake flippers, getting through Swamp Palace without the flippers is still basically impossible without even more major glitches that are banned in this category.
So we basically clip our way with a little spin from Death Mountain to Zora's Domain, which, like the dungeons and caves were on one plane, the overworld is as well. So those are right next to each other, and you can just jump in, but since the game thought we were in Death Mountain, it's still loading some of the tiling from Death Mountain, which is why it's a little bit blockier, but still beautiful. We respect all block types here. Save and quit back to Link's house, and now we've got to make our way to that mire area. So head over past this hammer peg. Oh, duh. I remember how this works. We're gonna do a little bomb clip to teleport us onto the top of this ridge, and then you do a few little hops to get over. That is optional, saves you a few seconds, but you can just as easily walk around. On the other hand, this buffered clip with the boots that he's doing is not optional. Like we said, there is no other way to get into the mire area without the flute that we've found as easily. So we get into the mire area, but it looks a little funky because it's supposed to be raining, but the game's not sure how to handle that, so we get a little graphical error, but as soon as we mirror into this desert palace area, it's not as big of a deal. Now, since we already have the Titan's mitts, we don't have to worry too much about getting everything in this front half of Desert Palace. We just need to make sure we've got the big key that we need. So, since we're coming from the eastern entrance of it, or western entrance, I know how maps work. We're basically just kind of going through it in reverse. Makes this desert split a lot quicker than it could be in other categories. And since we're back in a light world dungeon, everything kind of just barely hits you.
Yeah, desert is kind of infamous as a pace killer. It's not the scariest segment except for that one little overworld section.
Yeah.
But there's just a lot of little things that can go wrong. The dead rocks in Death Mountain are terrible. The footless mire teleport is terrible. The clips, if you decide to do them, are terrible. And then, despite having Tempered Sword and Fire Rod, which you would think would be a pretty easy one cycle on Lamo, Lamo could just still take it away from you, and you lose another 6 seconds. So it's a pretty rough segment overall.
So we see Kyong getting the last key that they need to get... Well, no, actually second to last. I always forget about this last tile room. One misfire on that fire rod. Hope that doesn't cost him. Should still have enough.
Well, he's got silver arrows. I expect him to switch to silver arrows here. If you have barely enough magic to do 3 fire rod shots there, and then you'll have 5 fire rod shots in. Oh, looks like he is going to be doing the fire rod. This boss is actually slightly. Wait, geez, wow, that was.
I did not expect that.
Yeah, that was lucky as hell. Kyong actually managed to double up one of his fire rod shots as the Lamos were crossing each other. That was basically the only way he was getting that one cycle. So Kyong gets a little bit lucky there. Silvers are actually, even with the menu, you can kill the Lamos pretty much as soon as they spawn. It still tends to be a little bit faster. You can also guarantee a one cycle that way if you're good at the fight. But the silver arrows fight is not completely free. It does still require a little bit of luck and a little bit of just knowing the timing when the Lamos spawn. So you're actually lighting the torches of just 2 fire rod shots. This will allow him to have an extra fire rod shot into the fight in case something goes wrong. It's a little bit slower of a setup in that room, but allows you to have an extra shot here. Gives you a little extra leeway in case something goes wrong. But it looks like he gets pretty good. Yeah, landmark RNG.
Still got it. Now, every person that I've commentated with has a different opinion on the Misery Mire split. As someone watching, I think that this is the coolest split in the run. I think it is so interesting, and we'll get to why in a minute. But certain other people, friends, disagree with me. What's your take? Granted, they play it, and you play this route.
Yeah, Mire, if I said Desert was the pace killer, Mire is just the absolute run killer. There is a bunch of stuff that we have to do in here. We're actually going to be going into Swamp to pick up the hookshot. We're going to skip all of... It'll allow us, by picking up here, it'll allow us to skip all of left side Swamp. We can... Basically, again, we're abusing the way the dungeon ID works by taking Mire's items into Swamp. Then we're going to get the hookshot that way. The clips to do that, one of them is pretty easy to go into Hera, and then we're going to do another one to get into Swamp. That second one tends to be pretty bad.
It's a little picky.
Yeah, it requires... It's not... It still just requires like 1 frame buffers. The problem is it requires like 2 of them in a row. One frame buffers aren't that challenging, but when you know, even if you have like a 90% success rate on them, the fact that you have to do 2 in a row just really increases your chance at failing it, and it's also one of the harder ones to reset up if something does go wrong. So we do that, and then we seem to be, for whatever reason, all the new like little stuff that we keep figuring out to do, for some reason keeps being in Mire, and Mire tends to be a pretty bullshit segment, and for some reason we keep trying to jam more bullshit in here. So just a lot can go wrong.
The next step is getting Fish Room back in.
Well, I mean, unless we allow misslotting back in, that's not going to happen.
Darn. I just like Fish Room. But, I mean, to a viewer, I think that this split is so cool, because you really, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'll say it 50,000 times, in ADRMG, there's a point where walls and things like that just don't matter. They're suggestions, like we see here. We bomb clip through a wall into this fairy room, and suddenly we go through a portal and it's Tower of Hera. Walls are just suggestions, and that's so cool. So
Yeah.
Hanging out in Tower of Hera here, we gotta watch out for the mini Moldorm, especially. Oh gosh, here we go.
Yeah, this is the clip I was talking about. It's a little tricky to do. It looks like, yeah,
There
it
we
comes
are.
out very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes like that most of the time. Once you get a little experience with this category, but even to experienced runners, it will just every once in a while you'll fail it, and it absolutely can not only destroy your pace, but depending on what you're running out, can just pretty much outright kill your run as well.
So I know what you're thinking. How is he gonna get this? How did he just get that hook shot without the big key to Swamp Palace? Well, I can tell you that. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Basically, we got the big key in Misery Mire, and the game, even though we were in Swamp Palace, still thinks that we're in Misery Mire. So it's just the same key, and it doesn't matter. Don't you love it? You know, I think it's cool. Apathy is just kind of rolling his eyes right now.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, we still need to get the cane, the actual item for this dungeon, and because we did that swamp stuff and mirrored back, we don't have there's no real opportunity to switch the pegs like you normally would. So we have to kind of take this little detour, going all the way across Mire. There's a second way back to the big door over this way. The interesting thing is, if we didn't get the hookshot there, Mire would actually be pretty much exactly like it would be in NMG, except for the spooky setup. It's really the fact that we do all this extra swamp stuff that really changes up the split. And Obscure having a very nice swamp to, or excuse me, Hera to swamp clip as well. So we're coming up on another trick here called Spooky Action Glitch. If you've seen an NMG run, it will look a little bit different. Normally we use the flute to set it up. We don't have that available, so we void out a Samaria block that actually sets it to the max value of 255. And that means the only way to actually hit the switch is we have to be even further away to hit this anti-fairy with the fire rod, and then fire rod dash up, so we get up to the top of the room quick enough to load the sprite, which is on the screen afterwards. Kyong doing a very good job there. That trick can be a little frame rolly. It can just fail for no apparent reason, just based on how the game's hit detection works. So it's always nice to get through it. A little bit of always a tense moment in a run. And Kyong using the silver. Vidi is another great place for silvers. If you're trying to be 100% optimal with silvers, you actually would still do the normal spin strats there to stay on picking up arrows in the rest of the run. But if you're not 100% confident with it, you can just default to silvers. It doesn't lose too much time. It's frames of difference because you're just skipping a pot at some point. But it's pretty good backup. It makes the fight a lot safer. Probably Vidi is probably one of the, in this whole Mire segment, is probably one of the scarier segments for newer runners anyways. Not that Kyong is very experienced at this, but just again, this being a marathon race, dying to Vidi would be pretty disastrous. So just using silvers, getting through the fight safely, just cleaning it up.
ObscureLifeForm grabbing an extra magic refill before eating his Samaria block. While we see Kyong heading out of a Misery Mire area for another boots buffer clip.
Yeah, at this point, the run really starts picking up steam. We've pretty much got all the items we need to get. We don't even need... There's no more dungeon items that we need. There's only one more item we need in general, which is the Ice Rod, which we'll be grabbing right after Ice Palace. So we're just going to start rattling off dungeons here. And since we already did the first part of Swamp, we already raised the water and everything. You'll see that when we're coming in. Swamp becomes a very, very quick dungeon, especially with a new glitch that was found recently called Holy Diver or Diver Down. There's still some yelling in the community about what the heck we want to call it. But this segment is a pretty short. This is generally done like in under 4 minutes if you have a pretty good swamp. Ice Palace is going to be just a little over 3 minutes, and Turtle Rock is only 5 minutes. So like just like the pace that like the dungeons start coming off here, just really starts accelerating. And we're not that far from like what would be considered end game at this point.
A little bit of fear going on ObscureLifeForm's side. We have 1 heart left. Oh, but I think he's gonna make it. Those regular arrows just has 1 left.
Yeah, he's having 1 arrow here is you definitely want more. He's gonna be in a little trouble. He may have to pick up some extra arrows from a chest in Ganon's Tower. In fact, he definitely is going to, unless he gets some. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, we need more. So we see Kyong just saying, hey, left side of the dungeon. Bye, and just not even looking at it as we go into this flooded room that you can't do anything with unless you have a Samaria block and a hook shot and you're just... oh, God. My brain hurts.
Yeah, that was a very nice Holy Diver there. That was very well done. It can be, it's just, again, it's another one of those 1-frame tricks. I just have to do a 1-frame buffer down. It's pretty easy when you get it. It can be pretty infuriating when it goes wrong. So very nicely done by Kyong there.
Making our way to Argus. Going for... Ooh, we're gonna go for that 0 cycle. Let's see how we do.
Oh, he saves it. Wow. The one puff is getting really close to hitting him. It was very nicely done.
And then pulls out those silver arrows for the hit.
Yeah, even the silver arrow is pretty fast. I'm still pretty sure that's not faster than just staying. We're going to need hookshot next, and it turns out you have to use 2 extra menus.
Yeah.
It really doesn't save. It might save a little bit. He might get a pretty nice gold here from using that silver, but he's going to have to do another menu in the next segment, so it ends up being a little bit longer overall.
After we get into this after we get out of this cutscene, I guess I should say, Kyong is going to be likely attempting the Ice Palace Mirror Wrap, which is a trick that I genuinely hold my breath for every time I watch someone do it, because if you fail it, you hardlock, and it is maybe like 18 minutes of pain to try and get back where you were.
It's about 15 minutes. You're gonna be back before not the whole Desert Palace split, because we did a save and quit in there, but the beginning of the actual before the Footless Mire.
Yeah. Gosh. So we're gonna see how that goes. Sure, it'll be great.
Yeah, so Kyong's trying to get 1 pixel off this transition here, and then he's going to use the mirror at the same time he hits the transition. Unfortunately, Kyong's kind of showing off all the ways this can go wrong. Both either hitting the transition without mirroring or mirroring without hitting the transition. Both waste a good bit of time. And then, yeah, we just need to get pretty close to the edge here. If you do go off the top of that edge, that's when you hit that 15-minute hard lock. But having
I
a
have not
pretty nice
seen
job of it.
anyone do the holy diver with the bomb.
Yeah, that's a rando thing.
Well, now I know. Hey, you can do holy diver with a bomb, by the way.
Yes. Anyways, we're going to be seeing our next Holy Diver and this other one, Icebreaker, kind of came out like within a day of each other, both found by Yuzu. Basically, we're going to be doing, again, using the Samari block. On this one, we're actually going to be abusing the door state that we're in. We're going to effectively extend that door state. And since you can walk through doors, if we extend that door state, it'll just allow us to walk straight through this wall. Again, it can be a little tricky. Another trick that just requires a couple one-frame buffers. Kyong having a little bit of trouble with it here. Looking like he's using some select buffers to fix it. Did he just... Okay, I thought he saved and quit.
I thought so too, man. Oh, not quite.
Yeah, you really have to be careful with this one. Because you're using these Samara blocks. Yeah, you have to keep an eye on your magic. There's 2 magic refills right before Cold Stare. Means you have 4 total uses to use Samaria. I think he only used 3, so you should be fine here.
Yeah,
but if it starts going really wrong, you have to you either have to go, you know, either like these berries have magic in their prize pack, and there's also some pen gators that tend to drop a bunch of magic. But all that's pretty slow, so you really want to avoid doing that.
And we have in this tournament already seen some issues with that magic and with the icebreaker, so it's really important that you keep your magic, because you cannot defeat the boss without a full magic bar.
Yeah, it's also really important you pick up both magics before. If you're ideally, you'd only pick up one. It's a little bit faster just to pick up the one magic, so you have to remember to actually get both if anything went wrong.
And we don't have to worry about it because Kyong decided to get both.
Yeah, and Obscure is just going to opt out of. Looks. Oh, maybe not. Okay, he's just taking an alternate path there. He's going to be doing the ice, or excuse me, the ice palace mirror wrap. This is completely optional. Like Andrew said, it's pretty scary. It only saves about 6 seconds.
I'm gonna freak out this entire time watching this.
Yeah, but
Oof. There we go.
yeah, Obscure has actually been having a pretty decent run. He had that one pretty big problem in the beginning where he lost a little over a minute having to redo all that from that soft lock. But besides that, he's saved about 20 seconds over his PB since then. So if it wasn't for that one error, this race would be a lot closer.
And still, it's early. There's a lot that could happen. One of the things about ADRMG is that a lot of the biggest RNG is at the very end. Beautiful icebreaker on ObscureLifeForm side of things.
Yeah, it was nicely done.
But they're basically, as soon as we get out of Turtle Rock and get to the end of Ganon's Tower, we have 3 whole bosses of just RNG.
Obscure picked up a key there. Oh, he did this. Okay, that's interesting.
That's new. You know,
yeah,
it works.
I'm sure someone considered. I can't believe that would be. I mean, the chests aren't the fastest things to open, but neither are lifting those giant rocks. So
this is always interesting to me on Kyong's side of things. Basically, clipped and the term for getting the camera to not be in the right place is evading me right now, but you know what I mean.
Just broken camera.
That's the one. Broken. That's a word. He broke the camera and basically was up by Ice Rod Cave, threw a bomb that was actually invisible to us, and went through the cave. It just always looks really cool.
Yeah, that glitch only saves about 2 seconds over just getting Ice Rod the most boring way possible, which is just running around and throwing the bomb to open the door. It's one of the things I like about this run. That like there's so many glitches that just save like under 10 seconds that you really can like kind of customize your run to exactly what you want to do depending on how much risk you want to take. And like a lot of it just like it'll have effects on your bomb routes and everything. So like it's supposed to like an NMG run where most people are doing the same exact things. We can really see like a lot of different strategies and everything in this run, so it's really fun to see from a tournament perspective.
Yeah, we just saw Kyong do a buffered ascent and basically wrap around to get to this back entrance of Turtle Rock, and then having to use a bomb to release them from being stuck in the wall. This is now our front of Turtle Rock in this category. We do not go through the other mouth of Turtle Rock. We only go through this little side hole. And then we basically just traverse the dungeon backwards. If you remember me talking back in the Skullwood segment about the worst room of the game, it is in this dungeon, in my opinion. It is the a little bit of there we go. It is the Chain Chomps room, which we are never going to see because we never have to go that far back.
Yeah, Turtle Rock in this category is a lot safer than it is in NMG. Most of the scary stuff that is in this dungeon, we just completely skip. Like this Poke's Tier room that Kyong is going through right now, normally you have to memorize 16 patterns to be able to do that room pretty quickly. Here we have to memorize 2, and both of them you just walk straight around it and just go straight out the door. So that's a lot easier. The Crystal Roll room is a lot easier. It just turns out coming backwards to the dungeon. This isn't the way the developers intended us to do it, so they didn't bother making the rooms hard this way. So this dungeon is pretty safe compared to NMG. It can still go wrong.
But so can everything.
Yeah, Kyong didn't refill off the old man here, so he's on a little less hearts, but generally nothing much is going to happen to you besides the Trinex fight. Trinex can always just go poorly. Or this Helma. This Helma is an absolute dickhead.
Final boss.
Yeah, unfortunately, the helmet did at least reward him with a fairy, a parting gift. And these pegs are in a different configuration. Kyong using a slightly different strat there than you would see normally. It's pretty fast strat, pretty difficult strat to do. So that was very well done.
Now the Trinex fight goes by pretty quick. We have these 3 heads, 2 of which are elemental. You have to hit them with the opposite elemental rod before they blow up. Once both of the elemental heads are blown up, the shell will blow up, and then you just do hopefully a double spin and a single slash to the head to get the Pokemon from Generation 1 Onyx to die. Just like that. ObscureLifeForm having good luck with that Helma mini-boss the first round. So now, just like any other speedrun where we're going from Turtle Rock to Ganon's Tower, we just walk out and walk over there, right, Apathy?
Yeah, we never actually opened the front of Turtle Rock, so we're going to be stuck in it. But again, I mentioned a long time ago that we can actually get to Ganon's Tower pretty much any time we want. So we're going to be doing that instead. It does skip the cutscene and everything. Even if we weren't stuck, it would actually be faster to do it this way because that cutscene takes so long. But we do, at this point, we just have to do both Ganon's Tower, and then after Ganon's Tower, that's going to put us on top of the pyramid. And again, since by rule we have to do all the dungeons, we have to then do Aga Tower after that, and have to go through the RNG gauntlet that will be at the very end of this run.
So we're going to see a similar clip to what we saw earlier with Kyong going into Tower of Hera, but he doesn't actually go inside. We're just gonna clip right into GT instead. Yeah,
once we're in GT, the rest of the segment becomes pretty straightforward. The only difference is can be again you can choose to optionally skip the old man refill. Kyong decided to take it here. If you did skip that, it kind of has a couple of strats you would end up changing to try to preserve your health a little bit more. And then the only other thing is we don't need magic at the end of Ganon's tower because we're not going to fight Ganon right away. So that changes the relative efficiency of there's like 3 keys and we can choose 1. So it basically changes the efficiency of what keys are the best to get. It looks like Kyong grabbed the torch key. That's the
slowest but safest, right?
No, the slowest is actually the chest key in this because you don't need that magic. That's the safer one. Oh, unfortunately, Obscure does take a death on Trinex as well.
Hey, now the good news is we came in through the safety door, so we don't really have to worry about having to go all the way around.
Yeah, Trinex deaths. I mean, any death in this is pretty punishing. But here, a Trinex death is not the worst thing. Unfortunately, Obscure is trailing right now. You did also see him come out and mirror. Basically, what he was attempting to do there was when you die without killing Aga, the game checks Aga's state to see if Aga's dead yet, and if it's not, he goes, "Oh, well, you must be in Light World because it's impossible to get into Dark World." So your flag is actually set to Light World, and that has a bunch of nasty effects depending on what dungeon you're in. Unfortunately, Turtle Rock is not one of the dungeons that has any ill effects from Fake Dark World, so he did not have to do that. And then he also mirrored again to go to Light World. That also wasn't required. So unfortunately, losing a little extra time there. Another, especially in races, when we're doing these glitches, there's a lot of obviously weird, non-intended behavior that you run into, and just knowing all that behavior is really a large part of not only this run, but this run especially in a tournament setting. So unfortunately, I think Obscure just a little confused there at what needs to be done, so he lost a little more time than he needed to.
We see. Oh, that is not what that was interesting.
That is an interesting. There is a generally you see that strat if you have the mirror shield and you can just kind of tank the fireballs there. Kyong not having the mirror shield just decides to do a little Muhammad Ali right there and just dodge the fireballs and take them out. I have no idea how fast that is.
I do not have an answer for you.
Yeah, it looked a little, with all the lag, I don't think that would actually save him time over just kind of doing it the normal way.
I genuinely thought that it was a mistake, and then it worked out, and I was like, oh, okay.
It could have been a mistake. I didn't quite see his...
Hey, no. Don't go putting that vibe down.
Kyong now entering the gauntlet. This is 5 rooms in a row. We have to kill everything in here. This is pretty much the bulk of the RNG in the Ganon Tower segment until we get to the boss. It's a lot of RNG you have to kind of memorize and learn how to deal with. He's getting pretty deep. That G3 RNG was pretty good.
Yeah,
G2 so he's getting through here. Yeah. The other nice thing about silvers is Kyong didn't do it, but if you can actually silver that first Zizek in that G4 room, he has one bad pattern that just kind of gets way out of his way. Kyong also, again, he does have silvers. Generally, your arrow management is kind of over at this point, but he is going to want to use silvers on Ganon, using the rest of them there to kill Landmo. There are arrows in this room. Hopefully he remembers the grabs. Nope, he does not.
Nope, he doesn't.
Well, I guess we're going to be seeing some...
There's some in Aga Tower.
Is it? Oh, yeah. Circle.
Yeah, you got the Foreman's Basement ones.
Yes, Foreman's Basement.
I know it's not that, it's not that impressive, but those Wizrobes rooms where you just use the Cane of Samaria, that looks so nice. You're gonna see Kyong just blow through Torches 1, which is honestly such a deceivingly hard room, and he makes it look so easy.
Yeah, one of the benefits of actually using silvers in that Lambo fight is it preserves most of your magic, and you can use... Normally we would do Lamp on Torches 1 and then go into Fire Rod. If you use silvers on Lambo, you preserve most of that magic, and you can do Fire Rod shots on Torches 2, which saves you a menu, which is pretty convenient. Menuing every time you menu in this game, it's about a second. There's actually a lot of strats in this game that we would do, if it wasn't for the fact that would have to menu to and from the item. Switching to an item just for a strat costs at least, costs like 2 seconds to go to it and then come back from it if you are on the original item you need to be on. So that's a large proportion of like figuring out like actually how to go fast in this game is your menu management.
Gotta go fast.
Yeah, Kyong now heading up into Aga 2. It looks like he's on. This is a pretty sick Ganis Tower pace, unless he split in some weird place. But he's entering Aga 2 at a 6:18, which is really good.
Maybe that Mimics thing and the Landmo stuff worked out for him. Ever think about that?
I mean, the Landmo stuff is about. I mean, no matter what, I mean, all that stuff is seconds. So this is a pretty good pace. Looks like he got a 3 cycle. So this is gonna be a really nice Ganis Tower. He's gonna. Well, I mean, his gold is from literally run, but this should be a pretty fatty gold right here.
So we did see Kyong get through Aga 2 in a 3 cycle. Aga 2 is basically Geometry the boss. You hit the balls into the real Aga.
Okay, I was a little worried he was about to cut my gold, but he didn't. He said that's a 711. That's a 711 Ganis Tower. That is a very nice tower.
So instead of hopping down that hole to got a little zappy boy. Instead of hopping down that hole to fight Ganon, we still have to finish Aga Tower. Thank goodness we are in a situation where we are a little bit overpowered for this with the Tempered Sword and Fire Rod and Silver Arrows. So we can just kind of blow through it until we get to fight Aga 1. The thing about Aga 1 is that Aga 1 is RNG. Just RNG. The first shot that Aga 1 gives you is a reflectable orb that you can use to hit him and damage him. He needs to take 6 of those to die. The next 3 shots have a 50-50 chance of being either reflectable or one of those fancy blue balls, which you cannot reflect. Then he has 1 phase of 1 lightning attack, and then he repeats with 4 50-50 shots. So basically, you're just hoping to get as few blue balls as possible to get done with him as quickly as possible. The minimum number of blue balls that you can get is 0. The maximum is 15. I'll say it on stream again. If we get 15 at any point during the tournament, M. Kostler will be buying me dinner. As of now, that has not happened. I think the cap we've gotten is, what was it, 9?
I have no idea.
I think it was 9 that I've seen, but if someone else got 15, let me know. There is one runner, Twitch partner Steven_IRL, who has gotten 2 documented on-stream 15s. But let's see how we do. 3 is definitely the most common. 3 blue balls is average. Every blue ball is it's a exclamation point BB% actually. Foxlisk. Every blue ball that you get is 6 seconds, I believe. Is that correct, Apathy?
6 seconds, and then every 3rd blue ball is an extra 6 seconds because of the lightning phase.
Oh, I don't know where that is. That was before my time. Oh, thank you, Apathy. I have some stuff to watch when I get done with this.
I mean, if you want to watch a man get 15 blue balls and it take 4 minutes, be my guest.
I remember when I was doing my first ever runs, I got 11, and I genuinely, at that point, I didn't know that 15 was an option. I didn't know about that command. So I thought that the maximum was like 5. And so then I got 6, and then I got 7. And I'm like thinking that my game is broken, and everyone's like, no, dude, that just happens.
Yeah, and despite everything that, well, not necessarily everything, but just the one almost hard lock that Kyong had, He's still saved a bunch of time. I guess at least on his run since yesterday. Again, not really his PB. But he's only plus 30 seconds now, and considering that soft lock cost him over a minute, Kyong's had a very nice run today.
Absolutely.
And again, Obscure has two. He just had the two really just major mistakes. He had the soft lock early on the Death Mountain ascent, and then he also had the unfortunate Trinex death. But besides that, he's been saving time pretty much on every split versus his PB. So a solid run. Again, this category, when it goes poorly, it goes very poorly. So you can see runners who are trailing by a good bit, and it's really only one or two mistakes, and those one or two mistakes can just be something as simple as just a one errant input or one input in the wrong direction at the wrong time.
So now we're gonna see Kyong hippity hop into this hole to fight Ganon, the blue pig. Ganon has 4 phases in this game. The first phase, we will see him spin his trident around and throw it at us. The second phase, he will spin some magical fire bats at us. The fourth phase, he will hop up and down and give us some RNG by jumping all around. And then the fourth phase, you just gotta, make him visible and shoot him. We are currently in that second phase. Kyong taking some unfortunate hits. These bats are kind of mean.
Yeah, they're a little difficult to deal with, but as long as your Ice Armos fight went okay, they're completely predictable. It's related to the Ice Armos fight for some pretty technical reasons, but just let it known that if your Ice Armos fight is fine, then you know where those bats are going to be. This fight is pretty safe in AD again because you get that free guaranteed refill because of the Aga 1 fight. So Kyong did take some damage there, but he should be, especially since he's got the silver arrows for this fourth phase.
And because really he just got the easy. Oh wow, that was a Ganon.
Yeah, it's very nicely done. So Kyong's gonna be finishing here in first place, assuming he doesn't Kyong off this bridge.
Is that?
Kyong has a pretty famous walking off the bridge at the end moment, but he does finish in first place with a 1:15.42. As GG's to him. So with that, yeah, Kyong did clinch a advancement for him. So coming out of this group will be Kyong versus Chex Human, and they actually have their final match tomorrow, which will just be for seeding. Since they're both guaranteed in, I expect both of them to kind of go a little balls to the wall there, so that should be a really exciting match. They started this tournament as their PBs were only seconds apart, and they were based on the way we did the seeding. They were right next to each other on the leaderboards, so it should be definitely one of the matches I've had circled since the tournament was or the groups were at least announced. So that should be a good one tomorrow. Let's see if we can get Kyong in here.
Yeah, both Kyong and Chex Human are pretty friendly with each other, and they're both big glitch lovers. So I can almost guarantee that it's going to be a lot of fun. On Obscure side of things, we are making our way downtown through Aga Tower, walking fast, faces past, and then we just hit them with a tempered sword and they can't do anything. Gets that magic upgrade, or refill, not upgrade. We don't need no stinking upgrades. Clinks his sword to get the attention of those guards before going down into Foreman's basement, using these pot buddies to grab some much needed key action. And then heading nice 1,000 years quote. Oh, I don't know why you guys let me have a mic on this channel. That's your mistake, but I'll take it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't need a platform for my stuff. I'm sure I'm gonna get a very nice DM from Apathy Duck once this is all over, being like, "Hi, go away."
And we are now joined by Kyong. GG's on the run.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah. So I I assume you were looking at the Discord yesterday when Ham had the little heart-to-heart with everyone about the frog door hardlock. Yeah,
But good on you for reacting.
Yeah, shoutouts to actually paying attention to the Discord. Probably saved you the win on this one today.
Yeah, I've had that happen before I actually knew like what to look for the kill there.
Right.
And this is the first time it happened since I'm not actually sure what went wrong. I'm probably gonna look at my VOD and the input display to see what I messed up there. But
Yeah, you probably just hit it a little bit early. I
yeah,
look for the ripples going off screen, and you can actually hit it fairly late too. So it's better to do it late than early.
yeah.
Because the worst thing that happens if you do it late is you just have to pick up 2 rocks, so it's not that disastrous. But you recovered very nicely. I know you weren't running against your true PB splits here, but after that you were pretty much saving time until the end of the run. You had a really good Ganis Tower. It was like a 7-11 Ganis Tower. So that was
wild.
Yeah, so I was a little worried you were cutting my gold there for a second. But,
He did.
I mean,
he definitely said
silver, so technically it can save some time. It doesn't really count.
Yeah, but I mean the silvers and Ganis Towers only saving you two or 3. Trust me, if you got a 708, I would have been breaking out that excuse. But
all right, fair enough.
But yes, even with silvers, a 711 is a very very good time. But yeah, just a solid run from you overall. So you have clinched a advancement with this win, and you do have your last match with your nemesis Chex Human tomorrow.
Oh baby.
So since you you got silvers in this run, since you already clinched, are you thinking about maybe dropping silvers, just kind of going all out to try to get
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Chex has been putting up some pretty good times lately. He does have the 112 and PB'd yesterday actually, so that's definitely a match I've had. Mentioned before, I've had circled since this tournament started.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make some popcorn, just pop it up on screen.
It's gonna be a tough one for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's one where definitely anything can happen.
So other than that frog door little mishap that we had, how do you feel about today?
Oh, went alright. I was actually really excited with how my Lemolas went. That was so.
Yeah.
That
was
fire rod shot, and I was like, okay, if I don't have enough fire rod shots, I may as well just spin the first Lemo twice. But he just went towards the second Lemo. Like, okay, I'll take it, I guess.
Oh yeah, we freaked out a little bit. It was great.
I was a little surprised you actually didn't go to just go to silvers there.
I'm actually not great at Lemo with silvers. I was pretty scared on getting on tower as well, since I only had 3 arrows there.
Yeah.
I kind of wing it and just go by feel, so it's not really that consistent.
Yeah, I actually find the Lamo 1 silver fight to be a little easier because you can do the normal NMG setup since you're arrowing the first 2 anyways in NMG. Yeah, because you have the kind of like the bonk setup that you would normally do, so you sort of know, but like you can't do that in Lamo 2 because
you can also guarantee when the first one spawns and all that.
Yeah. Based on the timing you come into that room. So yeah, Lamo 2 definitely tends to be a little trickier, but you did that very nicely, and you're able to save the magic to be able to speed up your torches 1 and 2 a little bit without having to menu again. So I mean, just doing again pretty nice run without the frog door incident. This would have been like a 114, which is a really solid run. Especially in a tournament setting like this. If you can just rattle off 114s, you'll go pretty far in this tournament, to be honest.
Well, I need to do some helmet practice for that, for sure. My silverless helmets have not been so great lately, so that was my first reason to get silvers.
Yeah, I think that's everyone's reason to get silvers.
Actually, also, I was messing up the Eastern Palace big keys keep a lot, and this gives me an excuse to enter Eastern with 1 more heart, which is pretty nice.
Alright, we see ObscureLifeForm getting through that Ganon fight with a 122.35. GG's.
Yeah, GG's to him again. So I don't know if you were watching the restream too much. Basically, Obscure's had two issues. He wasn't getting silvers, and then he managed to actually soft lock on the Kiki Yeet. I think he went right instead of going left after that. That put him back all the way into Sanctuary, and then he had a try next death. But besides that, like his
Yeah.
run was really solid.
Very solid run, yeah.
I was watching his stream. Actually, I was watching him too much. One of my Mii's saving quits was because I was looking at his Helma fight, I think.
Yeah, and we're getting Obscure in here as well for an interview. But yeah, just again another solid run of Obscure joining us here in a second, I believe. Yeah, but any other thoughts from you? Do you want to call out your rival checks a little bit? I see he's lurking in chat. If you want to give him any bulletin board material right now.
Yeah, I'm not great at that, honestly.
Oh, here, I'll do it for you. Check, you suck.
So
Alright, there.
Hey now.
That was from Kyong checks, not from me. You should totally
Check
take it out
Scream's
on him.
arch rival back.
Yeah. And we're also now joined by Obscure. GG Obscure on that run.
Yeah, GG. Nice race, Kyong. Good time.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, you did. We've been saying your run was actually pretty solid all the way
Really
through. It was
solid.
just the two mistakes that really kind of tacked on a bunch of time. The soft locked on the Kiki Yeet and the try next death. I wasn't quite sure what happened on the Yeet. Were you just like holding right after you jumped down or something? Because I haven't seen that one before.
I mean, there's a little weird setup. I mean, it sometimes happens. I've had it quite a few times, but I find if I don't get the right inputs, it's a little bit weird. Then that weird soft lock happens. He doesn't jump properly.
Yeah, I might have to look at that exactly, because I think if you may just want to like hold left as you're falling down, because I think you just walk to the. I don't know. Again, I'll have to look at it, but it was definitely something I haven't seen before, so I'll have to look at it a little bit. But yeah, besides that, the run was solid. You were saving time on most of your splits, except for obviously the Total Rocket one. So it was a really solid output from you overall.
Yeah, after I'd done that soft lock, that screen wrap, it was kind of like, okay, I need to get my head down because I know I've lost a bit of time here. And I was like, if I'm going to have any chance, I'm going to have to get some good splits and some good runs, and some of the glitches. It took me a little bit to get the Hera into Swamp, but it wasn't too bad. A lot of the glitches went pretty smoothly. It was just at the end of the day, it was just kind of like it was just the execution at the end of the day. I mean, Cold Stare went a little bit wrong, took a little bit longer than I wanted it to, and obviously the Trinex. I knew at that point it was kind of GG. Yeah,
Kyong had a moment where we thought the race was going to tighten up a bit, because he did actually get the frame on Frog Door, which could cause a hard lock, but thanks to the little powwow we had in the Discord yesterday, he knew what to do. So I ended up losing about a minute on that. But after that, you guys are pretty even, except for the fact that Kyong did have the silver's advantage still. So that evened it up. But yeah, again, like, I mean, Kyong is just a really solid runner. So he would kind of hoping on him to make a few mistakes. But he had the one. But besides that, he had a great run. And again, your run was really good too. Just the couple of mistakes, which just tend to happen in this category. So
yeah, it's just one of those things. That's the things with RNGs and NMGs. In an actual race situation, you make mistakes, you have to keep going on. It's no reset. You just have to go with it, go with the flow, and see what you can do.
Yeah. We definitely knew about all this stuff when we made this tournament, that stuff like this could happen. So we're kind of leaning into it a little bit. So you are eliminated with this one. Do you think you may join the secondary tournament that we're also trying to put on, or you think you just might be taking a break after this?
I didn't know there was a secondary tournament, so I'll definitely look into it. I mean, I love overworld glitches as well. I love all this stuff, so it's brilliant to learn the game and find all this new stuff. And go on, Karen. Sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just saying there's information in the Discord about it, and I'll be sending you an invite to the other challenge shortly as well.
Oh, amazing. Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Excited to, it should, because of the way the group set up, there was a lot of, pretty wide disparity in skill levels in some of them, so definitely offers an opportunity to get a couple more matches against players that have similar times to you overall. So it should be fun. And we look forward to seeing you there. But I think that's more or less it from us. We do have another match coming up. Just
Half an hour?
Yeah, half hour. That is another match that I had circled on my calendar since the news came out.
Absolutely.
It's going to be Greenham versus Casno. It is a 1 versus 2. It's actually one of the 1 versus 2s where the since the tournament has started, the 2 seed Casno has actually overtaken Greenham in PB. But it should be a really good one. They both have clinched in their bracket as well, so they are both going to be going. What I assume they're going to be going balls to the wall, trying to put up really good times. So that should be a really exciting one. We can either have 2 really good times, or we can have 2 comedy runs, and either one is going to be pretty fun to watch. So, but that's it for me. Kyong or Obscure, if you got anything else you want to say.
Thanks for the restream commentary.
Yeah, no problem.
Same. Thanks for putting it on, and best of luck, Kyong. In the, I think you got 1 match left, have you?
Yep. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Best of luck. Good luck.
All right, Trez, if you want to sign us off here.
All right, so I want to give a big shout out to Kyong and ObscureLifeForm for this amazing race, and also to both the Passy Dog and to Mr. 1,000 Miles Anders for this wonderful commentary. So don't go anywhere, or maybe get a drink, maybe. That's okay, but not more, because you need to be back here in 30 minutes, because then we have Casno vs Greenham. So be back for that on this exact channel. And yeah, until then, I'm signing off. Thanks everyone for watching, and see you later.